Once upon a time, there was a beautiful city. It was an ordinary winter night, cold and windy. Mothers put their kids to sleep. Fathers watched the evening news with their sons. Grandmothers said evening prayers. Lullabies were sung to babies, and the lights were shut. Then, the darkest hour of the morning became the darkest moment of a nation. The clock hit an earthquake. People woke up to find out their world was crashing down upon them. Mothers ran for their children, children ran for their dogs. They yelled each other's names, but the rumbling of columns, iron rods, and bricks muffles their sound. Then, all of a sudden, floor is pulled from under their feet, falling down at an incredible speed. Some said, "God, forgive me." Some said, "I love you." Some told their last goodbyes. How come the seconds were enough to fit all your memories in, they thought, as their life flashed before their eyes. Together with a cloud of rubble and dust, they hit the concrete ground like heavy rain. Their mattress became the rubble, their pillow became bricks, and their blanket was now the ceiling. A complete darkness, and for a moment, a complete silence. She can hear them moaning and people crying for help, screaming. Couldn't recognize her parents' voice though. Were they alive? She yelled their name into the darkness, but her voice bounced back from the broken bricks, echoed against the ceiling, and the iron rods and wires had already swallowed her words. She could move her feet, but can't even bend her knee. She could move her arms, but they were far from being free. I have my phone, she thought. I can call for help. In rush, removed her phone from the rubble. There was blood on her shirt. She thought, am I hurt? Her mom's flower pots from the balcony now were sitting by her head. Her upstairs neighbor was laying right next to her, dead. She refused to scream or lose hope. Instead, she focused on her phone. Wrote on Twitter, I need help. This is my address. Can't hear my parents. Please tell the press. It failed to send. The internet was down. The signal was gone. And so was her hope. It was still pitch dark in the concrete coffin. But then, she heard birds chirping. The sun must have been up. Someone will come for help. Then the earth shook again, brushing her hair with more rubble. Please God, make it stop, she yelled. Something broke, painful screams added to rumbling sounds. Then everything just stopped. Screams, cries, moans faded as the hours went by. Where are they? She thought. Help must have come by now. She sang, imagining herself giving a concert to hundreds. Then she planned in detail what she would do when she gets out. The places she wanted to visit but never did. The books she wanted to read but never did. And people to whom she wanted to say sorry or I love you but never did. She had to get out. She had to survive. Her stomach felt like it was collapsing in itself. I should eat, she said. Looked around. There were nothing but flowers. She picked one and chewed the rose as long as she could. Then she pictured her mother planting them with joy. Her eyes teared up, but she was not going to give up. Her eyes were heavy. What if I never woke up? Was her worry. Then she heard her mother's voice. Sleep, my sweet child. I'm here, watching. Good night, Mama, she said, crying. She woke up to the sound of a machine. The noise of the excavator was like the most beautiful song she ever heard. as if the machine's vibration was synced to her heartbeat. She started yelling again with hope. "I'm here! Get me out of here!" Machinery stopped, but she didn't. "Help me! I'm here!" But they couldn't hear. She screamed as loud as she can, but for her, Faith had another plan. The ground was sliding. Her coffin was shaking. "Not again," she said helplessly, waited till it ended quietly. When it stopped, the machine was gone. So were her hopes to come out alive. On Thursday, she thought. The muddy taste in her mouth was her own home's dust. She drank her pee using her hands. Would use a flower pot if they didn't break. She couldn't believe what she was capable of when her own life was at stake. What is that smell? She thought. She refused to believe that's her rotting neighbor next to her. It must be the fecal waste she had to let go earlier. What a mess, she thought. When I get out, I will have so many things to confess. She didn't know what day, which hour it was. Phone's battery was dead, and there was only one flower left. While putting the last flower in her mouth, she imagined them as her mom's favorite meal, meatballs. It tasted like hope and sorrow. It was really hard to swallow. Then she heard maybe the most beautiful voice in her life. "Can anybody hear me?" She started tapping and screaming, "I'm here!" He couldn't hear. The guy on the megaphone repeated, "Can anybody hear me?" Think about something. Think, she thought. Grabbed a big piece from the rubble. Hit the iron rods as hard as she can. Then she heard silence, followed by a crowd cheering. The guy's voice on megaphone was moving closer. "Can you hear me?" Tap, tap, tap. "I'm here." Then what she heard made her cry. "Tap 3 more times if you hear us." Well, she wanted to tap 100 times at that moment, but she stopped at 3. The megaphone guy was now really close. "Tap again, 3 times." She did as instructed. He yelled right on top of her.
"Seni duyduk, kurtarma ekibiyiz, geliyoruz!"
"We got you. You're getting out today." "I'm gonna live," she repeated. "What about my parents? Are they alive? Are they being treated?" Then a quick question crossed her mind. She couldn't decide. Was this faith or a homicide? Hammer and shovel sounds, muffled voices of rescuers, both above and underneath. Finally, a hole appeared at the top. Now she could really breathe. As the hole got bigger and bigger, the sunlight washed her coffin with beams. Sounds reminded her dad's last project. A bigger kitchen with better lights. Suddenly, tears built up in her eyes. But not enough water to cry. Damn it, she thought. My body doesn't even let me cry. A rescue angel, a stranger hand, reached at her from above. He said, "Hold my hand, kid. You're safe now." Grabbing his hand with all the strength she had, she pulled herself up. Some wires cut her legs. Some broken bricks hurt her arms. She didn't care. She was alive. Then she was deafened by the applause. The crowd was cheering. She got blinded by camera flashes. She thought, what's happening? They were carrying her to the ambulance as she laid. My parents must be still inside, she said. Her hero promised her to look for them. Then the rest of it is blank as she passed out in the mayhem. She opened her eyes in a hospital bed, asked for her parents, and learned they were dead. Was it weird to not to feel happy to survive? Like she didn't want to die, but she wanted to exist with her parents? Surprising how big sorrow can get so that it swallows every good feeling in your atoms, just like a black hole. Where to go now? What to eat? What to do? She found herself with other earthquake victims by the fire, all looking desperate and tired. They're all strangers, but she feels close to them like a family because they had a commonality. They also lost their friends, their family, their home, their childhood, and their city. She was wearing someone else's clothes from a donation box. She was served a cup of lentil soup by a Greek soldier, served a blanket by an Israeli team member. She was told that a Mexican dog, Proteo, found her, which she will always remember. Suddenly, she realized all those politics, governments fighting with each other were not reflecting the reality. Reality was love, not the governments. History should record these statements. People filled with true humanitarian love were the true heroes today and will be the savior of the world tomorrow, not governments. Love doesn't have borders.